And she was like, oh my gosh, and she's freaking out. She's like, okay, so did you have a lion? Did you have a pet lion? I was like sitting there, I'm like, you know, let me mess with her.
You're not
I was
serious.
like, yeah, actually, I actually had 3. Simba, we got Simba, Mufasa, and
Okay, welcome back. This is my first episode of The Couch talking about race. Okay, so I thought I had some questions on my phone to ask you guys, but you know what? We're going in blind. I want to get your perspectives, essentially. I'm going to give like my little perspective as well, kind of in the discussion. So I guess, first of all, names. Wait, so you introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Baharu, that's my Ethiopian name, but my white people name is Justin, but for the ladies they call me Daddy, you feel me?
Wow.
I just like, I'll take that.
We just took it right there from...
They call me Mr. Gentleman.
Alright, you guys know who I am already. John, just a guy.
Just a guy. Okay. Hi, I'm Bianca. That's my only name. I don't even have a middle name. My parents didn't love me enough.
How'd you go from Baharu to
Justin? Yeah, so when I originally came from Ethiopia, I was done with the jokes. There were so many, Baja Blast, Baja Kangaroo, just Bajaru, so many of these different like nicknames that they were giving me in middle school, and I was having to duke it out with a lot of people over just name issues, you know. Somebody come up with a joke, and oh, it's funny, bah. And my parents were getting tired of it, and I was getting tired of getting in trouble. And so I made the decision. I was like, it feels weird, doesn't feel like it's right, but just to avoid unwanted attention, I changed it to Justin. But now I'm kind of regretting it, and I want that uniqueness back, so I might change it back to Baharu. Baharu, it means life-giving water.
Wow.
Bro, and you went to Justin from that?
But Justin means justice, you know? I don't know, actually, I don't think
I feel like you just made that up right there.
Next question. What is your racial identity? Okay.
So like coming from Ethiopia, you know, I'm an immigrant, you can kind of consider it, but then like I'm here as a black person, so I get categorized into the African American category, but then I was adopted here, so my whole family is white. So and like, you know, family gatherings and stuff like that, you know, if you heard the way I talked, you know, just the way it just happens naturally too, you would think, you know, that I was a Billy or James, you know, I fit the mold. But then I guess when I'm with my, you know, African American friends, you know, it turns more into, I don't know why, it just happens naturally, you know, you don't even choose to do it. But which is really good. I like that because, you know, on where you identify yourself, you know, I identify myself as African American, and there's actually a lot of great benefits that come from putting yourself down as African American. You get, I mean, like I've been able to apply for minority scholarships. I've been able to apply for so many different programs. I have an internship to KPMG, one of the largest accounting firms in the world, because I did a minority program. So,
congratulations!
You know,
look at that, thriving.
You feel me? So,
thriving.
But yeah, so depending on where I'm at, my background is going to be able to kick in.
So like my dad's white, and my mom's considered non-white. You know, within that she's Asian, but she's considered non-white. And like even in South Africa, because they are post-apartheid, they're like trying to balance out the racial kind of demographics of different companies and stuff. So there's a lot of situations where it serves you to be non-white, and there are other situations where it might be better to tick the white box. On forms, official forms, you have like black, white, colored. Sometimes you'll have Asian or Indian, but you'll have an other.
Yeah.
And so between the white, Asian, and other, I just kind of, you know, whichever one serves me better, I'll take whichever one I want.
Oh shit.
But I guess I identify as Eurasian, not like one word, like hyphenated, because my dad's family historically is from Europe and my mom's Asian.
Euro-Asian.
You kind of, basically, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
interesting.
Because Eurasia refers to like an actual kind of area, but I'm European Asian, so
no, like
hyphenated. But I identify mostly as South African. You know what, race relations in my opinion, are worse in the United States because people do
Really?
not talk about it. Everyone's so busy trying to be like politically correct that no one is actually having the conversations.
Yeah, it's
And
a controversial question. Sorry.
No, go for it.
So with Trump as your president,
Not my president.
are you a citizen in the United
No, I'm not.
States?
No, I'm here on a visa.
Okay.
So not my country, not my president. Yeah.
So with Trump in charge, like a lot more people have come out as being like openly racist. Is that better for the conversation surrounding race, or is it just bad?
You know what I think the issue is that the question would be different, and I'd have to think about it. I don't have like a set answer, but the question would be different if it wasn't that the country had such vocal racist people, or people being so vocally racist, with the president who is such an active participant in the conversation as well. If that makes sense.
Okay.
So I'm trying to like not, because I mean this is on your channel and like people are gonna have opinions and stuff like that, and
They can
I have
bring their
always
opinions.
they can bring their opinions.
Comment down below.
He's gonna fight.
Creed himself will take care of you.
But like also just to be diplomatic in the situation that I'm in, because you know being able to study in the States is an amazing blessing, an opportunity
awesome.
for me.
Yeah.
But you know what, I think that the question would be different if it wasn't are people saying racist things and feeling like their opinions are validated by the president of this country.
Okay.
You know, so if the president was, let's just say, perfect situation, neutral about, you know, or not perfect situation, but if he was neutral about things, I think that being that vocal, it's, you know what, the scales have been in extremes for so much of history. You know what I mean? Like the slave trade and things like that. It's just took the scales, yeah, that little part of history has took the scales into such extremes that it's gonna go, you know, if you had to see scales and you had to like shove one side down, the other side's gonna go way up, go way down, go way up until it settles somewhere in the middle. And I think that's what's happening now, is that for so long certain people didn't have a voice and other people had a voice but didn't use it, and now people feel like they don't have a voice but they're definitely going to make themselves heard, and you're like, bro, you need to sit down. That I think that things are going to be going in extremes and things are going to be super hectic until it does kind of just settle down into the middle.
Ethiopia, actually, there's a lot of racism there, even in Africa. There's between certain tribes and like levels of melanin in the skin. There's very much where the lighter is considered you're more wealthy and everything, and darker will be that you technically are probably have less money and that you're doing farm work and so on. And so like culturally, it's looked upon that it's better to be lighter, and so there's racism within that aspect.
That's
like
across the whole of
Yeah.
Africa though.
I don't want to believe that that's like from Africa. I feel like it must be European influence to pervert our minds like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because Ethiopian people are very proud people, and so I would say when there's Americans that come, the majority of Ethiopians technically kind of look down on them, even when the Americans come down when they're lighter, because they see them as like, oh, they're the rich people that come here to do business, whatever, this, that. They don't have like a positive outlook due to mostly Hollywood. But within each other, the level of melanin corresponds with wealth usually, and so on. And when I was there, I would say I was like in the middle, so I didn't experience too much, but like there's a tribe called the Gambian tribe, and they're very much darker, and Ethiopian people are very racist to them. And then you have groups of Sudanese that'll come to Ethiopia, and they'll be very racist to them, the darker Sudanese. With me, I would say personally, yes, I have experienced racism more here.
Where are you from in America?
In America, Fort Wayne, Indiana, so upper Midwest America, very much rural Indiana, corn and so on, so very much white dominated. But you know, like I said, I changed my name up at some point because I was so tired of the racism. And the funny thing though is in America, I got racism from not just only white people. I also got racism from the African Americans, because to the white people I was African American, so they hit me with the African American jokes. To African Americans I was African, so they made fun of me in that component. So I got pretty good at duking it out. You feel me?
That's a weird dynamic.
Because it kind of depends on what you call racist. Because I've had people making judgments about me or making decisions based on my race or perceived race. So, you know, I'm not black enough. Like, I'm African, but I'm not black, so I can't be part of a specific organization. Or like, you look white, so, you know, maybe I get this perk, or maybe I look white, so I don't get to have an opinion about racism, you know, and things like that. And I completely identify as a minority. I don't identify as, because I'm mixed, so I don't identify as white. Yeah, you know, but and in South Africa, the racism works differently, because I've had racism shown to me by Indians, I've had racism shown to me by black people, by white people, by colored people. And in America, I think it's less nuanced than that. In America, it is more black and white, at least that I've seen. But then again, I'm in Indiana, where it is very white. So I hate going to the airport, because O'Hare, Heathrow, JFK, none of those are like positive experiences for me. No, I mean, it is, you know, like coming through, every time I come through, obviously, because I don't have an American passport, I'm like, customs and immigration, all the different questions, you know, sussing you out. And like, yeah, you're like, look, you look nervous, and you're like, don't act nervous, but you're there and you're like shaking, and you know, like the amount of times I've had to like, sorry, wipe the sweat off my hands, like put the fingerprints back on the thing, and it's like not reading. Like, but it's, you know, it's been crazy. Like, America's been the only country that's made me like cry in an airport, because customs and immigration officials have just been like so outright like racist to me, and I'm just standing there and I'm like, it's so unnecessary to like make someone feel like that. And I don't even have it that bad in some senses, because I'm not black, you know, I'm not there in, you know, any sort of like face covering or head covering, or Hispanic, you know, or Hispanic. I don't have a super thick accent. I can sound more British if I want to. I can sound fancier if I want to. I can sound more American if I want to, and it'll make things easier for me. You know, so I think it's just different types of racism in both countries, but I think race relations are better dealt with in South Africa.
Typically, what race do people think you are here in America versus in South Africa?
It depends on the time of year.
Because first time I saw you, I was like, oh, she's Latino. So I was, you know, I was like, shoot, okay, let me try my Spanish. I was like, hablas español, bonita. You know, I was trying to, you know, I was trying to shoot the shit. You know,
yeah, what did they tell you first night? Hey. Yeah.
What is the most ignorant thing you've been like told or heard?
Yeah, while my name was Baharu, I'd often get asked, because first thing I'd be like, yeah, my name is Baharu. They'd be like, oh my gosh, where's that name from? And I'd be like, well, it's Ethiopian. And then they get super excited and be like, oh really, where's that at? Is that in is that in Asia, or like where? I'm like, no, it's actually in Africa. They're like, what, Africa? How's that? Isn't that a country by itself or something? And like I'd have to explain to them that Africa is actually a continent, and there's countries within Africa. I'm serious. I had one lady actually that I met checkout Walmart several years back, and she was like, oh my gosh, and she's freaking out. She's like, okay, so did you have a lion? Did you have a pet lion? I was like sitting there, I'm like, you know, let me mess with her.
You're
So
not
I was
serious,
like,
though.
I was like, yeah, I actually had three. Simba, we got Simba, Mufasa, and the baby. You feel that? Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, Simba actually got killed by Scar, and
That's tragic.
Mufasa. I'm forgetting the order, but like I messed with her a little bit. Took her a second to finally realize that her question was stupid. Another thing they would say, oh, snap, Justin, so you ate twigs and stuff and berries in Africa, or they'll be like, you lived in a tree, or did you, you know, they'll ask you all sorts of crazy things. Did you have clothes? Did you run around naked?
Their education clearly like ended at Disney movies.
You know,
like
just,
that was it. Like they watched
absolutely
Tarzan
insane.
and they were like, well, now we know it.
And
like,
you know what, Hollywood? I hate you for making my childhood suck.
If you're watching this right
Why?
now.
We got different flavors. You know, hey, look. Don't judge before you've seen it. Check out some Ethiopian girls. I'm telling you, like you'll be surprised.
We digress.
Yeah.
This dynamic between like African Americans and Africans, I think, is quite interesting. My suspicion is that African Americans make fun of Africans because they kind of want to like distance themselves from their own like history and the part of themselves that's like looked down upon by society in general. Yeah, I want something productive to come out of this video, so not just like complaining, because there's always a lot to complain about. So what kind of like what do you think could help towards a solution for like the ignorance and some of the issues that we see in America today surrounding race?
I think a lot of jokes. It doesn't matter what race, white to black, black to white, Mexican to black, whatever, it comes out of ignorance. And so when people don't educate themselves, you know, there's a lot of room for them to just fill up with their own imagination. A lot of jokes come from ignorance, and I thought, you know, a lot of times, you know, the ones that did give me support were actually Latinos, because we were kind of looked upon as like the people that were coming from a different country here. So my best friends growing up were all Latino. And so, you know, that allowed me to be able to enjoy a group that was, by everybody's definition, new to America.
You know what I think a lot of it is just exposure. Because, so, I mean, like you said earlier, I've been really blessed in the sense that like my family and I have traveled around the world, and that in itself kind of really broadens your mind and understanding. But, you know, I grew up in classes where they were black kids, white kids, colored kids, Indian kids, Chinese kids, me kind of kids, you know, in the middle. And I think that growing up in cultures where I'll be sitting there and there'll be like two black girls and they're speaking like Zulu and I won't know what they're saying, but you grow up being comfortable in a space where you are not, where you don't understand what other people are saying. You know, having that exposure. And obviously America's a huge country, and yes, there is like a lot of like white in South Africa, and there are a lot of like concentrations of white. Like it's going to be really hard to get a lot of diversity if you're going to like a rural Indiana school, you know, rural small town Indiana school. So, but I think exposure, and you can do that yourself, you know, like once you get to college or even in high school, if you go and you make friends with other people, that helps a lot.
Fundamentally, I don't believe that race is real, which is a whole other discussion, but I feel like this is something I need to overcome personally. There is a lot of ignorance on sort of like the majority side, but also for minorities, because like we kind of like huddle together for comfort, commonality, familiarity, and also safety. That's my tendency to sort of just go around people that are minorities, because it feels like they're gonna understand my culture. They won't ask me dumb questions.
I'll agree with that one as well. I would gravitate towards minorities. Or asking a question of someone in a mall. You know, if I'm in a shopping center, I'm gonna probably go ask someone who's not white, just because I feel subconsciously like it's a bit of a safe space.
Yeah, I feel less judged.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a big thing as well, and just like in talking about like the race relationships and addressing those, is like, I think people need to have those spaces where you're faced with enough diversity that it's a productive space to ask questions, but it also needs to be, you need to be a safe space for people to ask you questions, and you also need to be okay to like be put in your place a little bit and be like, okay, no, that's not true of my culture, my race, my ethnicity, whatever, you know. So you need to be okay to be in those really uncomfortable situations sometimes as well.
That's what I'm working on, I'd say. Okay, so what had happened was my camera died, but like, that was a decent conversation. We covered a lot of ground, a lot of different topics.
Hey, remember, keep the conversation going so we can educate each other, and we can ignorance can be of the past, and this new generation, we can be in unison. Put down if you got a word, an idea, little comment.
If you disagree with us, let us know. That's
even
fine.
if you got something to disagree, put it down so we can talk.
Just learn from each other. Any closing remarks? Wait, why are you yawning?
I'm sorry!
Man, trying to have a conversation over here.
Yep. Hey.
Okay.
Love Jesus.
Alright, do I have an outro? I don't have an outro. Alright.
Oh, do dance from our.
Comment down below.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Comment down below. Come on down
Let me teach you
below.
something from America. Ready?
Comment down below. Comment down below. Comment down below.
Let him know.
Comment down below.
What y'all know about that?
Okay, that's enough.
Tell me that's not.
Oh my goodness. This all the time.
You see that right there?
Michael
That's
B.
him.
Jordan.
That's him in like, you know, a couple of years.
A
you
couple
feel
of
me?
years.
It's the jewelline, I think.
No, it's everything.
Bruh.
Like, bro,
I'm gassed.
my ex was crazy about him, which was weird for me.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah.